Welcome into the Big Hit, folks. I'm your host, Chris Hayes. We got a jam-packed show for you today. We'll start off with NCAA basketball. Women and men. The Notre Dame women, won the national championship on a buzzer beater. Villanova destroyed Michigan in the men's game. We'll talk about those. Then we got the Masters preview, our golf segment with Sean Fritz and Jared Brown. Is Tiger Woods back? We'll talk about that. We'll talk about some young guys who have a chance of winning this thing, dark horses as well. And then we'll wrap up with the NHL with Jake Taylor and Mike Costa talking about the Washington Capitals and the Pittsburgh Penguins' chance at a three-peat this year. So you're not going to want to miss any of this. Stay tuned on the Big Hit. We'll be right back. Welcome back into the Big Hit, and we're talking about NCAA basketball with Izzy Muhammad and Darnell Turner. Let's talk about the women first, guys, because that was a heck of a game. Notre Dame won the national championship on Sunday night on a buzzer beater three from Arike Ugumbawale. I hope I pronounced that name correctly.
She's pretty good.
Yeah, she is, and she got two buzzer beaters in a row in the Final Four. They beat Mississippi State to win the national championship, and then they shocked UConn the game before. UConn was undefeated. So what are your thoughts and reactions to Arike's shots and Notre Dame's run in the tournament?
I mean, there's one thing that sticks out about this Notre Dame team, and I think they took a page out of the Philadelphia Eagles playbook. When you look at this team, they've been through so many injuries. You had 4 people who were injured for the year, and 2 of them were starters due to ACL injuries and other various injuries. And when you look at that, this team was not supposed to go as far. They definitely wasn't supposed to be able to have the 1 seed, just to see how resilient this team is. Even in the first half of the game, it was a 26-7 run, and they decided that they weren't going to give up. They made it to the national championship. There's no reason to stop. So then when you have that fire in you, it motivates you, it helps you, it drives you. And you saw that in the Notre Dame game. It was 53-58 with 2 minutes left, and you just seen them climb and climb and climb until victory. And that's just showing the resiliency that this team has been through. The hardships that this team has been through is just it's ridiculous, honestly.
Yeah, Notre Dame had a terrific run. You got to give your hats off to them. I think what was really most impressive, you used the word resiliency. They, going through having 4 players go through an ACL tear, recovering from ACL injuries. So that's in its own right, that's really tough. And for that coaching staff and that team to be able to get up and get ready for a March Madness run like this and playing some really good competition, going against undefeated UConn and Mississippi State. So they went through a lot of good teams, and being able to go through it. And the players talked about, not really. People didn't expect them to be there. They weren't supposed to be winning. They were just, going out there playing loose. And I think that's what really helped them, make this magical run. Playing loose and not playing with a lot to lose going into that game against UConn. Just, Arike, just big shot by her. And, these last 2 games, just one of the best sports stories this year. She's had just those 2 shots. They'll go down in history, big shots down the stretch, and can't forget about Jackie Young, who had 32 in the game against UConn as well, helping them. Only 6 active players in the national championship game.
6-man rotation.
Guys were definitely feeling tired, and to be able to have mentally be able to go through that, only not having a lot of rest and playing through all that, and I'm pretty sure there was a lot of emotional game against UConn, being an undefeated team like that. So to come out and still play with that edge in the national championship, I think those girls deserve that national championship. They played great all year, and I'm looking forward to next year because the women's March Madness has been really interesting the last couple of years.
Definitely has. Let's get to the men's game now. Not as exciting as the women's game, not by a long shot. It was all Villanova pretty much, except for the first 10 minutes or so. Michigan started off hot behind Mo Wagner, but Villanova took control with Dante DiVincenzo and won the game by close to 20 points. Villanova dominated this whole tournament, really. They won every game by double digits, and the national championship was no different. What are your thoughts and reactions from the men's game?
When you look at this game, just watching the game yesterday, there's the Nova confirmed what everyone thought, or at least everyone that was smart. when you look at Villanova, they were the most consistent team all year. They were a team that a lot of people had to have as a favorite, even though some people had Virginia's and the Kansas and the UNC's and the Duke. Nova has consistently shown that they are a team to be reckoned with. They have a great coaching staff over there. Guys, they come into this program and they go through development. And yesterday was a stand to that. When you look at what Jay Wright has put these guys through, just going into the game, a lot of people didn't even believe that the Nova would get this W against Michigan. Like you were saying earlier, Mo Wagner, he was giving guys difficulty early, then slowly he decided to shut down. Just like DiVincenzo off the bench, 6th man of the year, 31 points, like that. That honestly was ridiculous, and that kept Nova in the game in the first half, and that kind of just kept everyone's spirits up because they had somebody that they can really ride behind for at least the first half.
Yeah, this was a terrific run by Villanova. The team, the guard play, they just have it all, depth, a lot of talent on that team, and it's a testament to that program and the work they put in. They don't bring a lot of 5-star guys in. They don't bring in one and dones. Everyone goes in there. They develop players. Mikal Bridges is, probably going to be a lottery pick. He's one guy that's gotten a lot of attention for that program, and even coming in his freshman year, no one really expected him to be a lottery pick. He's put in that work and turned himself into a really decent player over the last couple of years. And in that game, we talked about DiVincenzo having a terrific, first half. That first half, he really carried that team offensively. I thought they started off slow offensively, just couldn't make their shots. But I thought defensively, as long as they kept up the energy on defense, I thought they were going to be fine. They just missed a couple of shots early. But defensively, they were doing pretty good on Michigan. Wagner scored 9 points early on in the game, and after that, Villanova did a pretty good job shutting him down. I think offensively they just struggled in the first half. They only shot 7 for 21. Players not named DiVincenzo, he shot 7 of 10 in that first half. So offensively, once he started clicking and going, that took the team to another level. And then in the second half, it was just, they smelled blood in the water and they just attacked. Michigan wasn't ready to come out in the second half and didn't really make the necessary adjustments needed to beat a team like Villanova that has just so many weapons. Brunson, Bridges, Phil Booth, just have so many guys that can come at you. So Villanova, give credit to them because, this entire March Madness run, they've just played really good basketball, and, it's really shown how far that program has come, winning 2 of the last 3 national championships. So, they've hats off to them. They've had a great year.
You mentioned Mikal Bridges, probably going to be a lottery pick. A lot of prospects now looking toward the NBA draft now, college guys. Which NBA prospects have had their stock rise the most during March Madness? I know some guys like DeAndre Ayton, Trae Young got bounced in the first round, didn't really have a chance to prove their worth in the tournament, but which guys have proved the most in March Madness?
The good thing about DeAndre Ayton and Trae Young is that they had a full year of tape that coaches can go against, and a lot of great players in the past who went number 1, number 2 haven't done good in the tournament. So just looking at this though, I think even Trae Young throughout the course of the season, his hype kind of died down a little bit. Of course, I still think he's going to go top 10, but a lot of people projected him to go 1 and top 3. But I think he'll float a little bit up to 10, maybe 12, and DiVincenzo, I think if he comes out this year, he'll have a chance to go in the second round. If he stays and proves his worth, then next year it'll be even better scenario for him. I think Colin Sexton towards the end of the year really decided to turn up and show his game. Even though they didn't stay in the tournament as long, he still had a really strong performance, and it just reinforced what everybody already thought about him. Michael Porter's another guy, they got bounced in the first round, I believe, and you haven't seen him play all year. But what you have seen him in high school, teams are going to trust this. I still think I don't think he's going to sink far just because of the sheer talent that people saw him. And Mikal Bridges, I think he's still one of the safest picks. He's just been good throughout the entire tournament. So I think that he's the last guy. I think his stock rose up just a little bit, maybe a few spots. Still going to be a lottery pick.
Yeah, I have a couple of guys on my list. Jalen Brunson, I think, really made a case for himself late in the first round. His stock is rising. Just a tough guard, National Player of the Year. He's, really been the driving force of that Villanova team. Just a really tough-minded guard. I really think can make a nice serviceable backup point guard in the NBA if he decides to enter the draft. I think Malik Newman out of Kansas. his first couple of years in college. He was supposed to come in as a high lottery pick. He didn't live up to those expectations. He transfers to Kansas and averaged almost 22 points a game in March Madness, knocking down over 44% of his threes. So I think he's made scouts happy. I think he's really improved his stock if he decides to come out in the draft this year. Being able to shoot and create like he has this March, I think he's really improved his game first and foremost over the last couple of years. And then Mikal Bridges, I think his stock has pretty much been steady all season, but definitely in this March Madness when the lights are on bright and everyone's watching, he didn't fold under pressure. He shot over 40% from three, averaged 15 points. I think really showing that elite two-way ability that he has, and I think it's going to translate into the next level.
So it's really hard, especially in April, to predict the next national champion in 2019. But considering the incoming freshman class, I know Duke has an amazing class coming in. Who are your favorites going into next season here in college basketball?
Okay, so there's a few teams. Of course, you have Kansas, who's always going to, be a contender. Yeah, UNC. A lot of people are not talking about Nasir Little, one of their recruits, who I think is going to have a really great impact on their team. Of course, there's Villanova, who has a great coaching staff and guys that trust the system, and that's all you need. And he doesn't need the greatest talent to still get to the championship, and it's shown. And the last team, of course, I can't forget about Duke. When you look at Duke, they have Zion, R.J. Barrett, and Cam Reddish. Those guys are 1, 2, and 3, and just in the recruiting class. So when you have 3 guys like that, I really don't think that Duke should lose next year. They shouldn't lose when they get to the tournament. They might lose a few fluke games maybe, but I think that the way that this recruiting class is for Duke, that they should definitely be really good contenders for next year.
Yeah, all those teams are obviously going to be in play next season. I think Villanova, going into next season, definitely should be the odds-on favorite to repeat. You bring it, nobody that played this year was a senior, so they're bringing, all those guys back except for Bridges, and if Brunson decides to, declare for the draft, but if he, decides to come back for a senior year like a lot of Nova guards generally do, that would only boost their chances of winning national championship. You got Booth and a bunch of guys there, Spellman, DiVincenzo, if he returns. So they've got a good group of guys, and that program has just, been getting better and better each year. Jay Wright is still an amazing coach. Probably have to start putting him in the conversation for, best coaches in college basketball. And, Kansas, if they bring back Malik Newman, they're Bill Self, they always, run their conference. So
Bill Self never pans out. He panned out one time. It's Bill Self.
They're going to be consistent.
Very consistent. They're going to be in the conversation. They win the Big 12 title every single year. So they're always
false hope. That's all false hope.
They were in the Elite Eight.
That's fine. They haven't won since like 2007, 2009.
Something like that.
So
Mario Chalmers.
Nova wins 2 out of 3 championships, and now it's like no basketball program is good.
No, we're not even talking about Nova. Nova just won yesterday. That's a different.
We're getting into semantics here with these two.
They're a contender regardless. And then UNC with Roy Williams, he's, whether he gets high recruits or not, he's always got his teams ready to play. So those teams, and another team, Tennessee, I think they were a pretty good team this year. I think they've got some nice recruits coming in next year. I think Tennessee could be a top 10 team, a little sneaky team to sneak in March Madness.
All right, good stuff there. Darnell Turner, Izzy Muhammad. Villanova wins the national championship. We're looking forward to more college basketball in the fall. That's a big hit. We'll be right back with Masters preview with Sean Fritz and Jared Brown. Stay tuned. Welcome back into the Big Hit, folks. And we're here talking the Masters. We've got a golf segment here, our Masters preview with our 2 golf guys, Sean Fritz and Jared Brown. Let's get right to the questions, guys. And first question, obviously, is about Tiger Woods, the superstar who is back in contention. He's done pretty well in his comeback so far this season, and he sits atop the favorites to win the Masters at 9-1 odds right now. The question is simply, is Tiger back? Does he have a chance to win this thing, or has his recent success been kind of a fluke, Jared?
Too early to call if Tiger's been back. I mean, the only sample size we really have of quality Tiger Woods is one tournament. So I'm not ready to say Tiger's back just after one good showing. But Augusta, a very Tiger-friendly course. If he could drive the ball well, we all know what makes Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods is his short game and his ability to finish within 6 feet. So I think Augusta is the course for Tiger to really make some noise. But in reality, golf needs Tiger Woods to be back. He's the best thing for the sport. I mean, you saw it after he became exposed with his scandal, his back problems, and he was really in the dumps. Golf wasn't doing as well. It didn't have the average Joe following. I mean, it might be a little ridiculous, but Tiger Woods is kind of the Happy Gilmore of the sport, ridiculously good, and he gets the average people talking about it. I mean, when Tiger's going, that's when you hear about golf at a sports bar, not when Rory and Dustin Johnson are pushing for the Masters.
Yeah, I'm with you, Jared. I agree with pretty much everything you said. I think golf is a much better attraction, I guess you could say, when Tiger's in it and Tiger's playing well. And I think we've seen that, throughout his career. Not only does it make for better action on the course, but also, when you talk about bringing in a wider ranging audience, I think Tiger definitely takes it to another level that you just don't see when he's not out there, and especially when he's not playing well. As far as the question goes, is he back? I can't say he's back until we see him win a big one. This would be the one to do it, though. Like you said, Jared, he knows this course well. He's played Augusta. He's won at Augusta. He knows what he needs to do to go out there and go low this weekend. Will he do it? I don't know. I think we're going to see him play well at times. I think he'll make the cut. Don't know if he's going to be able to win it. There's a lot of really good young players. I think just because we've seen Tiger play well recently, both at the Valspar and at the Arnold Palmer, I think people are kind of just really wanting him to be back, but I don't know if that necessarily means that he is. Even though he's played well, he's got to be able to finish on Sundays. I think we saw it at the Valspar where he was in contention on Sunday and then he kind of blew up there at the end going out of bounds on 16 or whatever it was. But as far as Tiger being back, he possibly can be, but we got to see him win a big one. This would be a really good start for him. And like you said, I mean, this is all the attention around this Masters is probably the biggest uproar we've seen in a long time. So I think whether he wins or not, I think it's good for golf.
Let's talk about some young guys. Jordan Spieth won this tournament a few years ago. He'll be in the mix again. Justin Thomas been playing really well, maybe the best golfer in the world past year or so. And then Dustin Johnson, too, has been playing well recently. They're all favorited to make runs here at the Masters. Which young guy out of those three has a shot to win the green jacket?
I mean, you didn't mention him, but Rory McIlroy, I think he's one of the young guns that could make a run at the Masters. And like I said, because a lot of this course is about controlling it around the greens and getting it off with your drive. And out of those young guys, Rory McIlroy, I mean, Dustin Johnson has the long ball, but Rory can control it with the driver the best. And that's what Augusta's all about, is just sailing it a little bit longer than your competition and keeping it straight. So I think if you have to give any young gun the advantage, it's Rory, just because of what he can do from the tee box with his driver.
Yeah, I agree. I think, that you mentioned those three guys in particular, but Rory's another guy that you've got to throw into the mix. I know people want to hear Ricky Fowler, but I feel like we've been saying Ricky Fowler for a long time now, and Ricky just hasn't been able to take that next step. If Ricky can come out and play a consistent weekend, I think you can throw Ricky into that mix with the other three or four. But I like your pick, Jared. I think Rory McIlroy is definitely one of the guys. If you want to pick out of those three that you mentioned, I think Thomas right now has played really well. I mean, not that the other two haven't. They've all had some pretty good rounds in the past, month or so. So I know Spieth coming off his latest hottest round. I think he was minus 16 or something like that. So a lot of younger guys, especially these guys that we just talked about, are going to be the guys who we expect to be in there. Maybe another guy who maybe we're not talking about could slide in there. But there's a lot of really good young golfers. I think any of these guys could possibly make a run. But I agree. I think Rory's probably got the best opportunity right now, especially because he's also played at Augusta before.
Give me a dark horse guy who we haven't mentioned yet who has a shot to come out of nowhere and win this thing.
I mean, I'm not sure if you could call him a dark horse. He already has 2 green jackets, but Phil Mickelson at 47, Jack Nicklaus, oldest person to win a Master at 46 years old. So I'm going to call Phil Mickelson a dark horse because of the age, but he is looking phenomenal right now. Him and Tiger both looked impressive in their practice rounds, which people can't seem to stop talking about. but also Phil Mickelson with the huge win in Houston just a couple weeks ago. Good time to start getting the ball rolling and picking up confidence. And I'm just liking a lot what I'm seeing out of Phil Mickelson. And think about it, this court is designed a lot to stump righties around the green box. Phil just playing from the left side gives him a huge advantage in Augusta that I think a veteran guy like him is smart enough to take advantage of. So Phil, dark horse, but Phil Mickelson's my dark horse.
Yeah, I'm going to go with another, young guy, a young American golfer. I'm going to go with Patrick Reed. I think Patrick Reed has had a couple of good tournaments in the past month or so, month and a half. Recently, the last week or two, hasn't really been up there high up on the leaderboard, but I think he's definitely got an opportunity to make some noise this weekend. His odds come in at about 40-1 right now. We're just a couple of days away from Thursday. So I think Patrick Reed is a guy who we've seen in the mix before. We've seen him win a couple tournaments before. Nothing super crazy that I can remember anyways, but I think Patrick Reed is a guy who can get hot and play some good, consistent golf over the stretch of a weekend. I think he's just a name just to keep an eye out on. I think, we mentioned, there's a lot of good young golfers, especially the American golfers. But I think Patrick Reed is a guy to just keep your eye out for.
Masters Week, one of the best weeks in golf. Everyone seems to think that. Golf fans and just casual fans of the sport. Got the par 3 contest too. What are you looking forward to the most out of Masters Week this week?
I'm happy you brought up the par 3 contest, but in all honesty, I'm looking forward to Sunday, and I think that's what everybody's looking forward to. The Masters, more than any major golf tournament, gets you on the edge of your seat, and I'm just looking forward down to that last stretch because it always seems to be going down to the wire, 2-3 guys. The par 3 tournament's great. I love seeing the retired people, Jack Nicklaus coming out almost every year, but it's got to be Masters Sunday, the best time in golf for me.
Yeah, you stole the words right out of my mouth. I think there's nothing like waking up on Masters Sunday and knowing you've got a day full of competitive and fun golf to watch. I think we're going to see it again this week. There's a lot of drama that comes with Masters Sunday, which is great for obviously not only just golf fans in general, but the average fan who might tune in just to the majors. So Masters Sunday for me too. I think it definitely speaks to kind of this feeling, the sentimental feeling that you have when you're watching it 2-3 o'clock on a Sunday and it's beautiful down at Augusta and you're thinking, well, this weather is finally going to come our way. I think just that and the competitive nature of the whole weekend in general, I think there's nothing better.
Yeah, it's just like the Super Bowl golf, and I'll be happy if we're talking about Tiger. He doesn't need to be on Sunday. He doesn't need to be in the finish. Just Sunday morning, have him be in the conversation.
Right. Speaking of Tiger, Sean's in his Sunday red like Tiger, so maybe Tiger will make a run here this week. Sean Fritz, Jared Brown, thanks so much. We'll be right back with NHL with Jake Taylor and Mike Costa. Stick around. Welcome back into the Big Hit. We're talking about the National Hockey League once again. We're on the verge of the playoffs. I'm here with Jake Taylor and Mike Costa giving us all their insight here. We'll start with the Washington Capitals, guys. They have high expectations coming into the season. Of course, they did not win the President's Trophy this year, however, they usually do. They didn't win the President's Trophy this year, but they did win the Metro Division, though. For a team that has such lofty expectations, does not being the league's top team take some pressure off the Capitals heading into the playoffs, Jake?
I do think it takes a lot of pressure off them. I said this in the NHL preview that they didn't want to win the President's Trophy because that's way too much pressure for them. And you know how that team handles pressure. They just choke. And I think that this year actually might be the best chance they have. I think every team in the Metropolitan right now, their biggest competition, really the Penguins, might be on a slow decline right now coming off 2 cups. I think this is their best chance the Capitals have, especially coming in. They're not playing. Holtby hasn't even started the last few games. They had Grubauer starting because Holtby wasn't even that good, but that's been the problem the last 2 seasons. 2 seasons ago, Holtby played the most games out of any goalie. And so then when we had him in the playoffs, he was just so fatigued that, I mean, he's a heck of a goalie, but you can't be playing 90 games games as a goaltender and expect to win. I mean, you've seen the Penguins split goaltender time the last 2 Stanley Cup victories they had. And I think that's what takes success. So I think them playing Grubauer here at the end and him playing phenomenal too. The fact that they have 2 great goalies back, Holtby's getting rested, they don't have as much pressure on them. I really do think that this year the Capitals will be scary in the postseason.
Yeah, same. It's I think the President's Trophy curse, that's very much a thing. They had, Chicago 2012 and Detroit in 2008. Those were the only 2 teams that won it. Vancouver won it a couple times, that President's Trophy. They didn't come through. New York, the Capitals, obviously. It's kind of ironic though, I think, because we talk about like not having that pressure, but we still talk about them because they didn't win the President's Trophy. So it's like, are they going to win it still? Is it the Caps here? But I think the Pens are their biggest competition. I think they could get through them. That game a couple of days ago when they played 3-1, that was kind of bad. But I think Orpik said it in the interview that it's very much a thing. Nobody wanted to admit it. I think this was post-game. He said nobody wanted to admit it last year, but that was very much a thing where there was that pressure in the locker room. And this year it's much more loose, much more relaxed. So I think they could go far. You got guys like Backstrom. I think he's like the most underrated guy in the league.
Yeah,
he's phenomenal. It's something like, 2005? Just as many points, if not more, than Crosby or something like that.
Exactly.
They go like potato patata. So they got Ovi, Oshie. Oshie's got double digits in the playoffs, I think. He's a really good player.
Yeah, he is clutch.
Really good power play. Mediocre defense, I think. Penalty kill isn't that great. But who knows, man? I mean, Herb Brooks said it best. Great moments are born from great opportunity. So there we go.
Certainly
had to throw that in there.
Let's talk about the Pittsburgh Penguins again. They clinched their 12th straight playoff berth. Do they have what it takes to complete a three-peat Stanley Cup champions, or is there too much competition from teams like the Capitals and the Boston Bruins and some other teams in the Eastern Conference?
I think that they have they have the pieces, they have what it takes. We saw it. They didn't lose too many players. They lost Ian Cole in a trade, so obviously GM JR knew what he was doing, trading him, getting Brassard there and filling for Nick Bonino, who left. I think all the pieces are there. However, they're human beings. They can't keep up this high level of play, especially playoff hockey, for 3 straight years. Not to mention the World Cup of Hockey Sid and all them played in the summer 2 years ago. The fact that right now a team like Boston, who missed the playoffs last year, and Tampa Bay, who missed the playoffs, the Penguins almost in the last 2 seasons have more than half a season played than them. They played at least 50 more games or 40. There's like 42 more games than teams like that. I mean, that's just so many games. It's physically taxing on them. I know the professional athletes, they may be able to handle it, but you have a young team coming in here, not even a young team, just a hot team like Boston, like you mentioned, coming in hot all season long. They've been feeling it all year long. They're going to come in, they're well rested. I mean, they didn't make the playoffs last year, and it's a big difference, the fact that the Penguins played 20-something games in the postseason last year. The Bruins are just sitting there watching them. So I think that really the Penguins, if they do it, you have to chalk them down as the greatest hockey team of all time. But I don't think that's physically possible.
Yeah, it's going to be rough. I don't know. I mean, first things first, with that 12th straight playoff appearance, that just shows Crosby's leadership. That dude's a tank, man. He's the best player in the NHL. Went through a lot of coaches and everything, so they went through a lot. Never really found the perfect line. I mean, there was that line with what was it, Kunitz and Dupuis. Yeah, that was a solid line, but it's always been in and out. The argument that I have is the Islanders, when they won it 80-84 those 4 times, they played 80 games in a season. So I mean, when you say it tires them out and everything, yeah, who knows? Professional athletes, like you said, but they've got that core. They've got Malkin Kessel, they've got Letang, stud defenseman. They've got solid goaltender in Murray. I think they have that core. They got a lot of young guys with that farm system with Mike Sullivan. He knows what he's doing. With all those guys down there, Connor Sherry, Jake Gensel. I think that goes to show that I think they can make it, dude. In regard to competition, 3 points I think separates those guys. I think the Devils and the Pens is 3 points, 96-93. It's ridiculous, man. Besides Washington, obviously, and but dude, my 4S's, man. Like I said on STL, dude, they've got the side, they got that net presence and size with Patrick Hornquist. They got the star power with Kessel, Malkin, Letang. I mean, Crosby. You got them all. You've got that #1 power play for special teams, and the one that I threw in there was that stud defenseman, because you got Drew Doughty, you've got Duncan Keith with the Chicago Blackhawks. It's just phenomenal what they do. So
yeah, I mean,
they got it all.
You're right. The last year they did it without Letang. So
that's the thing.
They have Letang back. They surprised us. You have Jake Gensel last year, who comes out of nowhere and tears it up and almost wins the Conn Smythe Trophy. So maybe this year they're going to surprise us again. Mike Sullivan's never lost, so it's going to be exciting. I think it's going to be exciting.
Yep.
That's all the time we got on the Big Hit today. Thanks to Jake Taylor and Mike Costa. I'm your host, Chris Hayes. From director Darnell Turner, producers Izzy Muhammad and Jared Brown. We'll see you next week. This has been the Big Hit. Thanks.